It's been 20 years since we were actually, actively playing together as a band, and at the end of the day, it was a very miserable separation for me. I mean, they fired me, and all this kind. I'm not slagging them, but one of us had to go, and unfortunately enough, I mean, looking back, it was me.
Getting ousted from a band is rarely a simple process, especially when legendary personalities and enormous egos collide. In many cases, fired is more than just a harsh word. It represents a dramatic final straw in a struggle that may have begun with creative disagreements, inconsistent performances, or personal issues that spilled into the group dynamic. Regardless of the catalyst, firings in the rock world almost always leave an indelible mark on both the band's legacy and the artist's personal journey. Pete Best, The Beatles. Pete Best was the original drummer for the Beatles, a role he secured during the band's early days playing in the gritty clubs of Liverpool and Hamburg. By 1962, producer George Martin expressed concerns about Best's drumming abilities, and tensions mounted within the group. Although the official line was that he lacked the technical precision required for studio work, others have speculated that the Beatles simply found his personality incompatible with their own. In a later interview, Best recalled his shock, saying, quote, "I was only told that the boys wanted me out. It came out of the blue." The firing paved the way for Ringo Starr to join, reshaping the band's rhythm section and public image. While Best's subsequent endeavors never approached the heights of the Beatles' superstardom, he later found renewed appreciation through festival appearances and autobiographical projects that cast light on one of the biggest what-if moments in rock history. Dave Mustaine, Metallica.
Well, you know, I kind of earned that myself. I slugged James in the mouth, and he what would you do if someone belted you?
Dave Mustaine's early contributions to Metallica were vital in defining the band's aggressive, thrash-heavy sound. A brilliant guitarist and songwriter, he brought a ferocious energy that matched James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich's vision for a heavier-than-thou metal outfit. However, his fiery temperament and issues with alcohol quickly drove a wedge between him and the rest of the band. According to Mustaine, "All I remember is that I was told, 'Pack up your stuff, you're out.' The next morning, he found himself on a bus ride home, feeling betrayed and determined to prove his former bandmates wrong. That bitterness and ambition became the fuel for Megadeth, a band he formed almost immediately afterward. In the years since, Mustaine has publicly wrestled with the lingering resentment of his firing, but has also achieved legendary status in his own right, establishing a mighty thrash empire that rivaled Metallica's commercial success. Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath. Ozzy Osbourne co-founded Black Sabbath and helped forge an entirely new musical genre with his eerie, doom-laden vocals. By the late 70s, however, his unpredictable behavior and growing drug and alcohol dependencies were wearing on his bandmates. Tommy Iommi, reflecting on the difficult decision, explained, quote, "We just couldn't function anymore. Ozzy was in a terrible state, and we were all suffering for it." His firing came after a series of no-shows and subpar performances that left Black Sabbath questioning their survival. In a move that Ozzy later admitted saved his life, quote, "If they hadn't sacked me, I'd probably be dead by now." He found redemption through a solo career, orchestrated in large part by Sharon Arden, who later became Sharon Osbourne. With albums like Blizzard of Oz, Osbourne soared to even greater heights than he had experienced with Sabbath. Syd Barrett, Pink Floyd. Syd Barrett stood at the creative heart of Pink Floyd's first forays into psychedelic experimentation, leading the band through uncharted sonic territory with his whimsical songwriting and avant-garde guitar work. Yet fame, coupled with relentless touring and an increasing reliance on psychedelic drugs, severely affected Barrett's mental stability. As his behavior grew more erratic, band members found themselves caught in impossible situations, sometimes unsure if Barrett would even play on stage. David Gilmour was brought in to support and inevitably replace Barrett. Quote, "We'd have gigs where Syd just stood there, staring," Roger Waters recalled of the period leading to Barrett's departure. Though Barrett recorded a handful of haunting solo albums, his isolation and struggles with mental health defined his later years. Pink Floyd, meanwhile, transformed into one of the world's most influential rock acts. Vince Neil, Mötley Crüe.
The way we had the band going was like everybody had 25% input in everything. And so 75% voted me out, and I was the 25% that...
See, it's weird for little kids all across America to hear business considerations with Mötley Crüe.
As Mötley Crüe's frontman, Neil embodied the glitzy, hard-living spirit of the 1980s Sunset Strip. Behind the scenes, however, friction between him and his bandmates mounted due to creative differences, relentless partying, and clashing personalities. The official press statement in 1992 suggested Neil left voluntarily to pursue a solo career, but stories quickly emerged that he was pushed out for not meeting the band's expectations. Nikki Sixx reportedly voiced frustration with the singer's lack of commitment, once remarking that Mötley Crüe needed a frontman, quote, who is more in tune with the future of this band. Neil's solo endeavors met with modest success, but fans clamored for the reunion of the classic Crüe lineup. When Neil rejoined in 1997, it validated just how integral his voice and swagger were to the group's identity. John Frusciante, Red Hot Chili Peppers. John Frusciante joined the Red Hot Chili Peppers as a gifted, innovative guitarist while still in his late teens, helping propel the band to mainstream recognition with albums like Mother's Milk and Blood Sugar Sex Magic. His melodic sensibility and psychedelic undertones fused seamlessly with the group's funk rock core, resulting in a sound that redefined alternative rock. But as the Peppers' fame exploded, Frusciante spiraled into heroin addiction and withdrew from the band. Quote, I think he just couldn't handle the success, Flea once remarked, reflecting on the tensions that led to Frusciante's departure in '92. Though his first exit was more of a personal choice than a firing, the rift ran deep enough that the band sought a new guitarist. Frusciante's return in 1998 reignited the Peppers' creativity, leading to landmark albums like Californication. Yet his relationship with the group remained volatile, resulting in multiple departures and comebacks. Steven Adler, Guns N' Roses.
It makes me feel bad, but there's other things beside the band that he was involved in with his drugs that have been very dangerous and scary.
Steven Adler was the powerhouse behind Guns N' Roses' early drum tracks, supplying a reckless energy that helped make Appetite for Destruction one of the most iconic debut albums of all time. As the band ascended to superstardom, Adler's heroin addiction grew out of control, undermining his ability to keep pace in rehearsals and studio sessions. Quote, Steven's got a heart of gold, but his demons just took over, Slash once said. The final straw came when Adler was unable to properly record Civil War, leading the others to formally dismiss him. Although the group carried on successfully, many fans missed Adler's unique groove. Post-firing, he struggled with addiction and legal battles, yet he gradually found partial redemption. His occasional guest appearances with Guns N' Roses during reunion shows proved that his contributions remain an indelible part of the band's legacy. Chad Channing, Nirvana. Chad Channing drummed on much of Nirvana's debut album, Bleach, and was present when Kurt Cobain and Chris Novoselic were still refining the fuzz-laden, angst-driven sound that later dominated the 90s. Though Bleach showcased the roots of grunge, Cobain was dissatisfied with the band's rhythmic direction, and Channing's lighter drumming style often clashed with Cobain's desire for a more aggressive approach. Quote, we just weren't clicking the way we needed, Cobain reportedly told friends about the decision to move on. Channing parted ways amicably, but the arrival of Dave Grohl transformed Nirvana into a juggernaut. In the wake of Nevermind and the band's meteoric success, Channing was left on the outside, forming other projects that never reached the same level. Nevertheless, his contributions to Nirvana's formative period remain an essential chapter in the story of Seattle's grunge explosion. Now it's time to hear from you. Which one of these ousted rockers is your favorite? Let us know in the comments section below.